A lot has changed since the greatness of Halo 2 and Halo 3 were shadowed by the many failures of Reach. Can 343 reclaim the title of top multiplayer FPS on consoles, or will it be destined for a fate similar to that of its predecessor? In this video, I'm going to be giving someone who has been around since the beginning of the franchise and has played every installment of Halo religiously, multiplayer review and impressions. Can Halo 4's multiplayer live up to its pre-release hype?
Frenzy! 5 kills to win!
To begin, the graphics are simply amazing. This game will blow you away. I can confidently state that this is the best looking game ever released on Xbox, and possibly on any console. While I know many PlayStation players will disagree with me, the maps are incredibly vibrant, detailed, and simply look great. Forge World is much improved over what I like to call Halo Reach, and the maps are full of life, color, and simply are a treat to play on. The weapon sounds, with some minor issues with the battle rifle and the pistol sounding weak and a few other weapons having some sound problems, sound great. Many weapons sound extremely potent and are fun to use. In terms of the HUD, the minimap has a few problems, mainly the graphical representation of enemies above and below you being confusing to see, as well as friendly death markers on the map itself being difficult to spot. It's generally what you would expect from a Halo game. There isn't really much variation other than minor graphical improvements, so in this regard, 343 did quite a good job. However, the same cannot be said about the lobby system. The player card system, simply put, is absolutely awful. I do not know what they were thinking when they implemented this in Halo 4. Halo 3, Halo 2, and Halo Reach all had similar lobby systems and they worked well. There were no complaints about them whatsoever, so I have no idea why 343 decided to change the lobby system to a player card implementation. It's confusing to navigate through, it's difficult to tell who's in your party, and quite simply put, it's ugly. This was a definite step in the wrong direction. Furthermore, the in-game scoreboard, the scorecard of the player, and the post-game scoreboard are all a step back from Halo 3 and Halo Reach. In particular, the post-game scorecard is confusing and difficult to navigate, and seeing what medals you earned and how you performed is more difficult than before. In sum, graphics and sound are a definite step up from Halo Reach and previous versions of the game. While there are a few minor problems with sound, and the most pressing issue being the player cards, in general, visuals are very well done.
Frenzy!
The movement in Halo 4 is phenomenal. The overall feel of the game, the base mechanics, the way your player interacts with the map and moves on the map are all very well done. In general, controls are crisp and fluid and the game plays very smooth. Strafing is back. You won't find yourself getting stuck on random objects and raging in frustration, and mechanics that had a lot of trouble interacting with the map, like the jetpack in Halo Reach, are much improved. On the subject of armor abilities, in general, they're much more balanced than that of Halo Reach, and while some players, including myself, would argue against their presence in a game such as Halo, I think it's time to accept the fact that they're here to stay and appreciate that 343 has balanced them much better than Bungie did with the previous installment of Halo. Some players may have issues with active camo and Promethean vision being overpowered or simply being in the game. However, I think it's too early in Halo 4's life to declare that something should be removed. If we're going to be talking about removing things, the SAW definitely needs to be brought up. Halo 4 does suffer from some weapon imbalances, such as, in my opinion, the incineration cannon not being in line with many of the other weapons. And while I initially thought that the SAW was overpowered, Like many other people, I retracted my decision, and now I believe that it really isn't that big of an issue. However, that being said, there are definitely some problems with many of the weapons in Halo 4, most importantly, the two main starting weapons, the BR and the DMR. In my opinion, there is an imbalance between these two weapons. I am a BR enthusiast, however, the BR is utterly useless against the DMR at mid to long range, and at close range, where you would expect the BR to excel and easily be able to defeat the DMR, the weapons seem to be about on par, with the DMR coming out on top ever so slightly at close range battles. In essence, the DMR is capable at all ranges and extremely capable at mid to long range, while the BR is simply average at short range, below average at mid range, and very poor at long range. This most definitely needs to be addressed, either with a buff to the BR at mid and close range, or more preferably a nerf to the DMR at very short range and extreme range. To conclude on the issue of weapons in Halo 4, for the most part they're quite balanced for the release version of a game, and while you will encounter some minor glitches, such as ordnance drops being called in awkward places and weapon scopes not rendering in time, in general, there isn't much to complain about apart from the imbalance between the DMR and the BR. In terms of gameplay, the other two things that need to be spoken to are the join and progress system that 343 has put in Halo 4. While I was skeptical at first, I have to concede it works well. Apart from the occasional time you will join a game that is close to ending, it is efficient at filling up games, and in general, keeps the flow of gameplay moving. On the competitive side of things is where Halo 4 fails, and fails hard. There is absolutely no skilled ranking system or competitive playlists. Everything is styled similar to Call of Duty's leveling system, where player performance is largely irrelevant, and the majority of XP comes from simply completing your games rather than winning or performing well. Surprisingly absent is the famous system that Halo 2 and Halo 3 provided us with that tracked us on a 1 to 50 basis, and while there were admittedly many problems with that system, it was extremely popular among the competitive player base and provided incentive and long-term reasons to play multiplayer. The lack of a competitive rank or any sort of competitive arena for players who wish to participate in such endeavors is an extreme letdown on the part of 343, and is one of my major problems with this game. While they claim they're implementing something in early 2013, I am quite skeptical as to whether or not they will actually come through on this promise, as they have made clear that they would rather cater to the casual gamer rather than the community that made Halo so popular in the first place. There is a surprising lack of customization options when it comes to private games. In comparison to Halo Reach and Halo 3, Halo 4 lacks many of the most popular game types, customization options, and general tinkering that could be done by the player. This is a surprising setback for the Halo franchise, and is something that 343 needs to address if their game will have longevity such as Halo 2 or Halo 3. Finally, the spawning system in multiplayer is significantly flawed, especially in Team Slayer and similar variants. There are no concrete bases that made Halo so popular, and you will often find your team being spawned behind and spawns switching sides multiple times per map. Get used to this. Finally, and most importantly, is the maps or the level design. While they look great, they are overall poorly designed and implemented. There are a lack of maps, especially when it comes to 4v4 or 5v5 game types. Of the few that can actually be played in a 4v4 style, most are either too big or play in a free-for-all fashion that, when coupled with the broken Slayer spawning system, makes team play unentertaining and very frustrating. Maps that are designed well are the anomaly, and in the case of Haven, play more towards Regicide or Objective. While Solus gets an honorable mention, designs such as Adrift, Complex, and Abandon leave me scratching my head as to how such abominations could even pass playtesting. Big team battle and objective maps fare a little better. However, many are plagued by an overabundance of vehicles and weapon spawns, leading to a hectic and unorganized style of gameplay. You know there is an issue with level design when the most popular map is a remake, Ragnarok, which is one of the least played maps in Halo 3. Luckily, Forge allows us to create our own maps, and while we still have to suffer from public matchmaking for the time being, there is a small light at the end of the tunnel that might actually manage to salvage Halo 4. To conclude, the core game mechanics and gameplay of Halo 4 are absolutely phenomenal, but the game suffers from some gameplay issues, some minor imbalances, and most importantly, poorly designed maps. That being said, the game has an amazing amount of potential, and at its core is extremely well made and fun to play, so given some time and support to mature, Halo 4 could turn into one of the greatest multiplayer shooters of our generation. Thanks for watching, guys, and please do leave me a comment with your opinions, as I always enjoy reading them. And don't forget to subscribe for more Halo content coming your way soon.